Little did I know, from shadows to light. I'm David Liddle. These are the moments that shaped me, the storms I survived, and the truths I can finally tell. Welcome to my story. Chapter 2: The Turbulent Teenage Years. Adolescence arrives not as a gentle transition, but as a torrent, sweeping David into a world of new freedoms, risks, and revelations. Chapter 2 traces his journey through canoes, camps, and curtain calls, where the lessons of brotherhood, belonging, and resilience are forged in the unpredictable currents of teenage life. Through triumphs and turbulence, David begins to discover the person he is becoming, shaped by both the shadows and the light of these formative years. December 21st, 1982. Lawn clippings and loneliness. The summer of '82 came in quieter than the one before it, more like a soft radio station you turn to when you can't sleep. I wasn't streaking through town anymore. The sirens had receded into long echoes. Instead of chaos, I learned the modest rhythm of regular work. I mowed lawns. 5 houses a week, same pattern. Driveway, mower bite, bag the clippings, sweep the walk. Gasoline and cut grass became the smell I carried home, not cigarette smoke and cheap cologne. $50 in a crumpled hand felt less like cash and more like earned dignity, measured in green blades and sunburned knuckles. It was honest. It was small. And it exposed something I'd been avoiding, a truth older than my bravado. My friendships were, for the most part, transactional. When I had product and swagger, people stuck by me. When I had none, the calls stopped. The keg invites dwindled. The hangouts thinned until it was only me and the hum of a dying summer radio. By late fall, the gap between me and them had hardened. I learned how quickly your value evaporates when you stop providing. It was a humiliating lesson, but it was also clarifying. I started to see who was there for the person and who was there for the goods. That alone was a kind of education I couldn't have paid for with stolen cash. December 21st landed like a hard frost. I remember the cold up on Manor Avenue, how the wind cut under your jacket, and how the corner store's neon looked like a small hurt in the dark. I remember dialing Steve and hearing the same tired exchange. "What are you doing? You got any money?" "Nope." "Okay, see you later." Door after door closed over the phone. The solitude felt not merely lonely, but corrosive. I'd flirted with destruction before, pushed toward it like a dare, but that evening the edges felt closer than they'd ever been. I sat on the frozen stoop outside Poochie's corner store, and the thought of stepping over the line felt frighteningly easy. What I did next surprises me now. I closed my eyes, bowed my head, and prayed. Not for the sentimental VBS God with the soft hands, but for something harsher and truer in my mind, a presence that might yank me back. "Save me from my despair," I whispered into a winter that felt like glass. No grand revelation followed, no choir, just a raw, small voice inside that said, "Stay." I walked home alone with my eyes wet and my mouth full of the taste of cold. Morning came like a slow mercy. The heaviness had lifted just enough to let a thin beam of hope through. Days after, the news came. Steve, Bobby, and a few others had been picked up for breaking into Poochie's. A week in Albany County Jail, a cautionary tale wrapped in cuffs and fluorescent light regret. Little did I know. Would I have joined them if my prayers had been hollow? Would that one wrong turn have rewritten the years that followed? I don't know. I only know that mowing lawns, the cheap dignity of honest labor, and that icy prayer on a stoop held me steady long enough to miss the fall. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't cinematic. It was quiet and stubborn, like a lawn that keeps growing after you think winter's won. And somehow, that quiet held me, enough to start choosing differently. The quiet crisis of loneliness, then and now. Looking back on December 21st, 1982, I can still feel that winter night on Manor Avenue, the empty phone calls, the corner store neon buzzing like a tired pulse, and the cold that soaked through my jacket and straight into the places I didn't know were breaking. By then, my life had quieted down. No sirens, no courtroom benches, no police cruisers. Just lawns to mow, bags of clippings to drag to the curb, and the dull ache of friendships that had evaporated the moment I stopped providing what everyone wanted. I didn't understand it then, but I was learning one of the most dangerous truths of adolescence. When a teenager's worth hinges on what they can provide, not who they are, loneliness becomes a silent predator. I felt that predator's breath on my neck that night. The distance between a kid trying to stay afloat and a kid slipping under isn't measured in miles. It's measured in isolation. I wasn't running from cops or stealing vodka. I was running from something quieter, colder, and far more lethal. The belief that I didn't matter. That's when the turning point came. Not loud, not holy, not cinematic. Just a moment on the stoop where something inside whispered, "Stay." I bowed my head and prayed, not for miracles, but for interruption. That thin thread of hope pulled me home, and days later my friends were arrested for breaking into Poochie's. A single moment kept me from a cell I would have been sitting in if my loneliness had won. Loneliness is the new epidemic, then and now. My crisis happened before smartphones, social media, disappearing messages, and digital pressure cookers. But the emotional engine behind it hasn't changed. In 2025, teen loneliness is at the highest point ever recorded. Not because kids are isolated, but because they are overstimulated and underconnected. They live in a world full of noise, but starved for belonging. The warning signs are subtle. A teen who used to talk but now shrugs. A teen who stops posting online. A teen who posts too much online. A teen whose friend group shifts overnight. A teen who sleeps too much. A teen who sleeps too little. A teen who says, "I'm fine," like it's a shield. Loneliness rarely looks like tears. More often, it looks like numbness. Why today's teens are more vulnerable. In 1982, I chased belonging at parties, in stolen bottles, and through nicknames that felt like armor. Today, teens chase belonging through online validation, private chats, older friends, disappearing messages, pressure to be available 24/7, addiction to digital approval, friendships that become transactions, relationships that disguise exploitation as affection. The tools are different, The pain is the same. The consequences are faster. Polaris Project reports that traffickers today often use romance, digital intimacy, and emotional vulnerability, not kidnapping, to pull teens in. The McCain Institute shows that modern exploitation begins with connection, not force. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children warns that 1 in 7 endangered runaways in 2024 were likely trafficking victims. These are not abstract dangers. They are modern versions of the same shadow that found me on that winter stoop. What parents need to know. Parents today don't need to interrogate their kids. They need to connect with them. Instead of, "What's wrong? Why are you acting like this?" Try, "When did your day feel heavy? Where did you feel alone this week? What can I carry with you?" Adolescence is full of thresholds. Most dangerous choices come in quiet moments when a teen feels unseen, unheard, unimportant, interchangeable. The cure for loneliness isn't discipline, it's presence. The small interventions that save lives. People imagine teen rescue as dramatic, flashing lights, heroic interventions, last-minute saves. But what saved me was honest work, a moment of prayer, a whisper of self-preservation, the instinct to stay alive one more night. Most of the time, rescue happens in the smallest ways. A check-in, a conversation, a ride home, a parent noticing what others miss, a kid deciding not to follow the crowd this one time. It doesn't take a miracle, it takes connection. What I wish today's teens could hear. You don't have to earn your worth. You don't have to perform for belonging. You don't have to buy your way into friendships. Your value is not tied to what you provide, and the world is better with you in it. Loneliness lies, but you don't have to believe it. Stay just one more night. There is a future version of you who will thank you for surviving. Why I share this now. That December night didn't change everything at once, but it changed enough. Enough to steer me away from one more fall. Enough to remind me that light can reach even the loneliest kid. My story is a reminder for parents, for teens, for anyone watching your documentary or reading your memoir. The danger isn't always destruction. Sometimes the danger is invisibility. And connection, simple, human, consistent connection, is the antidote.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you have just heard is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. This is the city. Just lighting the mood, folks. Take it away, David.
Thanks, Joe. This is actually pretty important. The research notes and source narrative for 2.27, The Quiet Crisis of Loneliness, Then and Now. The story you've just read or heard, a lonely winter night in 1982, a quiet prayer on the stoop, a life that could have turned and didn't, isn't just a memory. It's a lens. And to tell this story responsibly in 2025, the lens has to widen. The dangers that nearly caught me back then are not the same ones that stalk teens today, but the patterns are the same. The vulnerabilities are the same. The loneliness is the same. To understand the modern parallels, I turn to the organizations doing the work, the ones gathering data, fighting exploitation, documenting runaway patterns, and sounding alarms that too few people hear. National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC. The numbers from NCMEC aren't abstract statistics. They're reminders that the story I survived is still playing out in homes, hallways, and bus stops across America. In their 2024 case analyses, NCMEC reported more than 29,000 missing children, with 1 in 7 endangered runaways likely victims of child sex trafficking. Not kidnapped, not snatched, but lured, targeted, groomed. Children slipping through cracks the same way I almost did, silently. Polaris Project, National Human Trafficking Hotline and Analysis. Polaris makes one thing brutally clear. Today's traffickers do not rely on force. They rely on relationship, promises of safety, affection, belonging, or escape. The same needs that pulled me toward the wrong crowd in 1982 are now exploited digitally. In the modern landscape, manipulation often happens before a parent even realizes a friend exists. U.S. Department of State, 2025 Trafficking in Persons Report. The TIP report shatters the myth that trafficking is a foreign problem. Most child victims in America were exploited inside the United States. No border crossings, no dramatic abductions, just kids, often lonely, unsupported, or struggling, being targeted where they live, learn, and hide. McCain Institute, Research on Sex Traffickers of Minors. Their 6-year analysis reveals the psychology of traffickers. They study vulnerability the way a hunter studies tracks. Children who feel invisible, as I did on that December night, are more likely to be groomed by someone who simply pays attention. Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, OJJDP. Their research into runaway and homeless youth shows what I lived firsthand. Teens rarely run from comfort. They run from conflict, loneliness, or the belief that nobody will notice they're gone. And once they're out the door, risks multiply fast. National Runaway Safe Line, NRS. The NRS does more than answer phones. Their 2024 to 2025 findings show that teens in crisis aren't always running toward danger. They're running away from emotional pain. Just like that kid sitting outside Poochie's with a frozen face and a tired prayer. Why these sources matter here. This episode isn't just a memory from 1982. It's a mirror held up to 2025. A reminder that while the world has changed, algorithms, apps, predators, opportunities, the emotional storm inside a teenager has not. Loneliness is still the gateway. Connection is still the answer. And vigilance, not fear, is still the responsibility of every adult who loves a child. Thank you for spending this time with me, the Pussycat Wizard. These moments we share, whether in shadows or in light, are threads in a much larger story, one I'm honored to tell with you beside me. As always, the journey continues. The next chapter subsection is waiting, and I'd be honored if you'd walk with me a little further down this road. Until then, keep the wonder alive, and I'll see you in the next episode of Little Did I Know.
In the quiet of my mind, a tempest rages. Mother's convictions, the script of ages. Her voice a beacon in the fog of my prose. David, she chides, in secrecy it goes. Beneath my breath a silent plea. Mother, I hear you, but can you hear me? Your Savior, your faith you implore, I embrace. Yet within, I wrestle with my own grace. Torn between the divine and my truth. A son's love, a personal sleuth. Have you surrendered? You persistently ask. In your version of Jesus, should I bask? Jane, your call for aid. He's different, you say, a label pre-made. In your eyes I see the fear of a son's path, not straight but queer. Stand at the crossroads of self. My identity not just a book on the shelf. Mother, your love I'll always hold dear, but my journey is mine. Let this be clear. Cross paths